Before the political turmoil between Russia and Ukraine, India's appetite for Russian crude was like a small flame, flickering in the wind, sporadic and minimal. But as the situation between the two nations escalated, the flames grew into a roaring fire, and Russian crude became one of Prime Minister Modi's most essential tools against rising energy prices. Like a powerful elixir, the crude oil from Russia has provided a much-needed boost to India's economy, giving it the energy it needs to thrive and grow. And while the global community has been watching with bated breath to see how India will handle its purchases of Russian oil in the midst of international sanctions, Modi has stood firm, using every tool at his disposal to fight against the rising cost of energy. As the world evolves and energy demands grow, India's oil trade with Russia has become a complex and opaque process due to the structure of India's oil trade. India's leaders are working hard to strike a balance between their energy needs and international sanctions, while ensuring transparency and fair pricing for their oil imports. It's a challenging task, but one that India is determined to succeed at. But still, India's oil trade structure is like a puzzle, missing a crucial piece, a detailed breakdown of costs. The structure of India's oil trade means that the final price it pays includes shipping, insurance, and other costs upon arrival at its ports, without a detailed breakdown. The lack of transparency surrounding how much India pays for Russian oil is just one example of the overall uncertainty and murkiness surrounding the flow of Russian oil. This makes it hard to determine the final price paid for Russian oil, and whether it supports Moscow's revenue goals. This uncertainty is partly due to changes in the oil trade, as it shifts from the Atlantic basin to Asia, and from large traders to smaller entities. As the trade landscape changes, it becomes increasingly difficult to enforce or encourage compliance with the curbs imposed over the past year. This uphill struggle is a challenge faced by Ukraine's allies, as they seek to limit Moscow's revenue from crude sales in the wake of the ongoing conflict. It's a mystery analysts and experts struggle to solve, but India sails on, using its unique trade structure to secure energy and support its people. And despite requests for comments, India's Oil Ministry, Ministry of Commerce, and Ministry of External Affairs did not respond. As the Modi government never signed up to the G7 cap, it's not obligated to comply with it, as long as it doesn't use Western insurance or shipping services. Although those familiar with the matter suggest that the Indian government won't violate the sanctions, monitoring and enforcing such vows is challenging. The US and its allies believe India is buying Russian oil below the cap, but they don't want to criticize India, as it's a critical player in the rising US-China tensions. A US official said that most of the Russian oil is being traded without the use of Western services, and although there may be some price cap subversion, Russian Finance Ministry data show that Moscow's revenue is down. Also, they stated that India is purchasing Russian oil below the G7 price caps, which were put in place to undermine Moscow's military intervention in Ukraine while also ensuring global energy stability. India is on track to become the world's fastest-growing oil market, with both demand and refining capacity set to skyrocket in the coming decades. According to OPEC forecasts, India's oil demand is expected to reach 5.14 million barrels per day in 2023. The International Energy Agency estimates that India's oil demand will increase to 7.2 million barrels of oil per day by 2030, and 9.2 million barrels of oil per day by 2050, making it one of the fastest-growing oil markets in the world. While other countries may be hesitant to deal with Russia due to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, India's demand for discounted Russian oil is expected to remain strong. In fact, India's refining capacity is expanding so rapidly that it may soon become a major supplier to the entire Asian market, as well as to the US and Europe, if trade with Russia remains disrupted. But this isn't just good news for India, it's also good news for the world. Despite the ongoing tensions, the fact remains that the world still needs Russian oil. And as long as India continues to provide a reliable market for it, most countries are likely to turn a blind eye. So while the puzzle of India's oil trade structure may remain unsolved, for now, one thing is clear. As India's energy demands continue to soar, its role in the global oil market will only become more important.